pure God power. Get everything you ever wanted and live the life of your dreams. The Master's Course. Copyright 2010 by Richard Lee McKim Jr. All rights reserved. Let the quest for knowing begin. While it is easier for us to visualize ourselves, like the marionette example, as the non-physical energy field above our physical body, in the same way as the people who operate the marionettes are above the marionettes, however, our energy fields actually surround us. Okay, let's look at this illustration here. We've got a family of 4, a mom, a dad, a daughter, and a son. And we can see from the picture that they've got the green, which is the physical body, as we're representing it. Then the yellow is the beliefs and meanings layer, and the blue is the non-physical being. So you see, while we have an energy field where everything happens, the energy field is actually surrounding us. It's not like in some other location. Although it's easier to visualize it like that. It's in another location, and it represents here. It's actually almost in the same area as the actual body is. And it's representing itself as the body, but the energy field is where everything is going on. The beliefs and meanings, the non-physical being is who you really are. The beliefs and meanings are the definition and expression of what you are depicting and what you are experiencing. That's like in the second life example. You have the physical being, which is you, and then you have your definitions, which you program into the computer, which shows what your body type's going to be like, whether you're going to be male or female, what your everything about you that you program into the computer so that you're represented in the computer. That's the beliefs and meanings layer. That's your immersion. That's who you are in this particular life expression, in this particular life incarnation. And the green part is the body that you've created for yourself. That's the body that you're using in this incarnation. And the yellow part, the beliefs and meanings, is what this whole incarnation is about for you. It's your memories, it's your plans, it's what your beliefs are, what you think is real, what you think is not real. So basically this illustration shows you that at all times you're basically 3 layers. You're your non-physical being, who you really are. Then there's a definition, the yellow section is the definition and meanings of what this experience, this life incarnation is all about, who you are and your expression. And the green part is the actual physical body that's being generated from that. And is the actual thing that you think you're experiencing your life in. So the body is just expressed from the beliefs and meanings layer. It's created from the beliefs and meanings layer. In the same way as the avatar on the computer screen is being created and expressed from the program, which has the details of it. You can't actually change the avatar on the screen itself. You have to change it in the program, and then it expresses differently. So you can't actually change your body. You think you can, but the moment you're making changes, you're really making changes at the beliefs and meanings layer, and then it's expressing differently, and you think you actually physically changed your body, but you didn't. You were changing it in the meanings layer, and it was representing itself as changed in the physical layer, but you thought that you were actually changing the physical layer, and you were not. You were changing it in the beliefs and meanings, and it was simultaneously representing itself in the new form, the new way, in the physical. Later on in Chapter 10, The Reality of Your Body as a Representation, video example, The Day I Died, you will find out about a woman who was undergoing a very serious operation and had an out-of-body experience. As with most of these stories, she could see herself on the operating table and hear the conversations between the doctors. Later, when she was back in her body, she recounted her experiences and the conversations between the doctors that she had heard, and they were exactly correct. Normally, skeptics discount these types of stories and try to say that it was some sort of activity in the brain that caused this kind of thing. However, her story is quite different. In order for them to operate on her brain, she was put in a total shutdown mode. That is to say that she was cooled down and her heart was stopped and her brain drained so they could operate. This means that for over an hour, she was completely dead, with no brain activity and no brain synapses firing. She was completely shut down. The important point here is not her story, even though it is compelling in itself, but instead that she could tell the story. The stories that she had recalled were from a time during her total shutdown, when her brain could not in any way record a memory. Nothing was going on in her brain. However, she was consciously aware and watching the surgery from above. This means that she had the experience and remembered it. And when her body was able to function again, those memories were still available to her. Her memories and sensibilities are not in her brain. If they were, she could not have seen, heard, or recalled what was going on during the time that her brain was on ice. Her memories are in her conscious energy form and are only represented in her brain. Her consciousness and memories are only represented in the location of the brain in the same way as your vision is located in the area of your eyes, but they do not function there. They are only represented there. To make this point very clear, you can see them functioning there, but that is not where they are actually functioning. It is like the tuning dial on a radio. You can see the operation of the dial and the setting that it is at, and take all kinds of measurements as to the position of the dial, etc., but in the end, the actual functioning is in the variable capacitor on the circuit board. So you can see it functioning at the dial, where its positions and actions are represented and can be measured, but the real functioning is somewhere else. During the time that she was out of her body, she still knew who she was. She still knew who the doctors were and what they were doing. If her memories were in her brain, how could she have known this stuff? The simple answer is, she couldn't have. Like the marionettes, our real functioning self resides at a much higher level, the energy level, where all of our conscious memories and abilities are held. An example, at our energy level, we can always see, but if at our body level we have no eyes, then we represent that we have no vision and we cannot see. Later, you will also read about and see a video on another woman who was blind from birth, and when she popped out of her body in a near-death experience, she could suddenly see. At her conscious energy level, she still could see, but she had been representing blindness because it was appropriate, since her body wasn't supposed to be able to see. Just like the example in our holodeck discussion, when the holodeck's character's eyes were covered or poked out, he was no longer able to see, not because he really couldn't, but instead because it wasn't appropriate for him to see. If in the marionette example we remove the eyes of the marionette, the higher self who is operating the marionette could still see, but he would make his marionette representative bump into things to seem realistically blind, because his marionette is not supposed to be able to see. What happens when a marionette dies? Does it ever happen? I guess the way it would happen is that he would just lie down one day in his box and just would never speak again. He would be full of life one day, and then the next day, nothing. He would have slipped into a marionette coma. No movement, no signs of life, just stiff and lifeless. But what about the life forces that flowed through him just the day before? Surely that can't be gone. To the other marionettes, it may seem like death, but to us, from our understanding and broader viewpoint, we know that the marionette's inner being had just retired, so he's no longer representing himself in the marionette world. Even though from the marionette's point of view, it is death in the worst kind of way, we know that it's not really death as much as it is simply a withdrawal from that world. The real being, the real source of consciousness that was being expressed through the marionette has just moved on to another place of focus and interest, their grandkids and fishing. That is so much like our physical world. Just because our representation, the body, had expired or died or is no longer expressing life, doesn't mean that the conscious aspect has died also. It has not. It has only withdrawn from this experience, and the only way it can. I suppose a person could just disappear like the virtual world, or just lie down in a box like the marionette, but that's just not how we exit in this physical world. We have a different format or system here. We die our way out.
To continue, go to How to Use Your God Power, chapter number 10, segment number 8. Let your quest for knowing continue.